All right, so I've been to New York City like 10 times, but this is only my second time that I'm actually here for pleasure. And every time I come to New York City, I have to do the same thing. I gotta visit the Oracle. All right, so here we are with the Oracle, the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Sewell.
It's kind of overselling it a little bit, but I'll do what I can.
All right, well, thank you for inviting me to your house and to talk about, super exciting stuff. Specifically, I wanted to talk to you about what's coming in the future, and I think some of this stuff is already out yet. But when I talk about coming in the future, I'm talking about what are those things that are out now, but still companies are either in the process of implementing or maybe in the process of discovering, right? The fact that this stuff is out there and they're trying to find a way, or maybe they're not even trying, they're not even aware that some of this technology is actually out there to help them, make the most out of the data they're already inputting and entering into Dynamics and leverage that for, customer insights and things like that. So let's talk about what's coming, what's out there, what are you excited about, what are you working with that you're excited about that companies actually can benefit from?
Sure. I mean, I think you're right. There's a tremendous amount of tools that are out there available, and the barrier sometimes is just, man, I got a day job. How am I gonna take time to get this thing done?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm excited about is for instance, you mentioned customer insights. And how that is going to the attempt is to bring a massive AI project into a consumable amount that every business, literally any business could try to take on board and say, let's flip the switch and turn customer insights on against the CRM data we have, or the data inside of Dynamics, plus a little bit more, hopefully, and try to get some insights out of that without saying, okay, we're going to sit back and spin up a project that's going to take 6 months before we even see if we can get some value out of it.
That's right.
Right? It's that, I think that's the buzzword keeps coming up is democratization. And the whole idea that there's this technology that's up here and out of reach for most, but we're bringing it into making it a more consumable approach that says, okay, here's some of the value that or the tools that are out there. Let's bring it to where anybody can spin it up and use it. And if that amount is enough to solve the problem, great. If they say this is enough to solve the problem, but we actually now see value that can go way beyond that, then they can expand off and go into a more expansive. But they're starting with a place where they say, I already know what the value is. So that's, I think, in general, my excitement is that the tools that were available only to organizations that are Fortune 100 organizations, or organizations that had a shop that had enough brains on sticks walking around that could solve problems with AI, those things are becoming available to everyone. Now, it's no longer, the interesting thing is no longer a technical barrier. It's a barrier to just going, I didn't even realize that was available.
Exactly.
And so that's what I'm excited about is, so looking into customer insights is one of them, is going to be part of it. The sales insights, the insights for customer service, all of those have their different flavors that bring some value to any organization in a way that when people like yourself and myself, when we talk about things and get excited about a new tool that's out there, whether it be Power BI or something like that, we get excited about those things. And yet, there'll be people who listen to your podcast. I mean, this is a kind of a separate organization. I mean, a little bit of a self-selecting organization, because people who would watch this or listen to our podcast conversation would be people who are more interested or more excited about the technology and more excited about the process.
Yeah.
More so than the average person.
Yeah, and the podcast that Scott's talking about is episode 63. So if you're watching this, it's not out yet. Just wait for it. It's coming. But
Fabulous.
hopefully, hopefully you'll listen to that because we talked about this for an hour.
Right.
So definitely check that out. But one of the things that you mentioned is that we're democratizing this. We're making it available for companies because large organizations out there could essentially develop this themselves, right? They could have invested the time and money to make this happen. But it's kind of the same, that happened when Canvas apps came out. Because we talked to companies about how easy now it is to create an application that runs in mobile devices and tablets, and it's pixel perfect. The creation of Canvas applications is easier with a low code approach to it. And sometimes when you show some of those Canvas apps to organizations out there, they'll look at it and be like, well, but I could have created that already. Right. But then it's the answer that you mentioned earlier, which was, yeah, but you're not going to. That's the thing. You didn't do it. So now we have the ability to create a mobile application, which for me, I've created, I don't know how many Canvas apps by now. Simple ones, though. I'm not winning the Nobel Prize of Canvas apping, right? But the fact that I can go and within 30 minutes I can have an application that solves a business requirement and I have to write almost no code for it is unbelievable. I have no idea how to create a mobile application without being a Canvas app.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's even the organizations, I'm working with a big monster bank downtown right now, and they've got some really, really brilliant people in the room. And like I said, they're like, well, we could do this ourselves. We could spin up Databricks and Azure Data Lake and this and that, and we can extend our data warehouse. I'm like, yeah, but what is it going to take to get this problem that this small group, this work group over here, how much do they have to raise awareness and raise business value and raise get your attention to pull you off of the big problems that you're trying to solve? And they're like, well, yeah, ultimately they're not going to get that attention. Whereas now these tools say even a work group inside of an enterprise that has these kind of resources can now have access to it because until now they just couldn't get the attention that they needed.
Yeah, they just didn't do it.
Then not to mention a smaller organization that doesn't have brains on sticks walking around.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that, and they've got day jobs and they, so anyway, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the way this thing is curving for us. So
where do you see some of these features coming out or that just came out fitting into, let's say, your Titanic presentation and kind of model that you've been working with over the years? And I feel that every time I see it, I learn something new. You've been adopting something new, some new technology and adding it to it. I'm just hoping at some point to see HoloLens as part of the Titanic.
That's actually don't laugh too hard.
It's not too far.
Somebody's got to cough up a HoloLens for me to get that started. But I actually have a use case I want to try it out on.
So where does this fit? Where does the AI stuff fit?
So one of the pieces that in the original Titanic design, the original demonstration, was that I used Azure machine learning to do the solving it did the solving and the regression, saying whether a new profile of an individual, what the likelihood of them surviving the Titanic based on the original data set of the actual passengers and crew of the Titanic. We'd do a score and it would say whether you would
50-50 chance,
70%, and based on the outcome of that, I would, if you were a likely survivor, a workflow would fire and it would create an opportunity to sell you travel insurance.
Exactly.
So, it was kind of using that approach. I was using Azure Machine Learning. And of course, as soon as I open up Azure Machine Learning, you've got this whole machine learning workflow to go through.
Yep.
And now with the, and I'm not going to say it was terribly difficult.
Right.
But it's kind of out of reach for, we'll say, people who aren't as excited about the technology as you and I might be, or people who are watching this might be. But more for a normal person, we'll call them normal people. From a normal person's perspective, it might be a little bit much to try to tackle that.
Definitely.
But now we're adding in the AI for the AI builder. That process is sort of taking those same things that I did with the Titanic on the machine learning side and putting it behind a pretty interface making it easy to consume, and now applying it to that. Also, we had, for instance, we've had the bot framework for a long time.
That's true.
The Azure bot framework?
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. But you got to crack open Visual Studio, which is kind of like, that's a non-starter for a lot of folks.
Yeah. But the companies that do dare to go into that, they'll reap the benefit of being the ones adopting that technology.
Right. But now, so we're seeing the Azure Virtual Agent, and I got that thing. I got snuck in on an early preview of it, and I wasn't even supposed to, but I got snuck in on an early preview of it, and I spun it up and built a Titanic virtual agent that walks you through. Basically, it's kind of goofy, but like most things with Titanic, it's kind of goofy the way I did it. But you could build this bot, you could build this virtual agent that could interact with somebody on a customer service conversation, even without writing a single line of code, which is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly enabling for people who might not ordinarily try to bring those kind of benefits into their organization because there was some sort of a technical barrier to it. Or even if they could technically do it, they just didn't have time to commit to building it without a solid business case, or they couldn't get somebody to approve them to spend the time on it. But now they can spin up a virtual agent, and the virtual agent might be enough to solve the problem, or it might be enough to say, hey, this takes us,
we got you 80% of the way there. Yeah.
Now let's invest in extending it a bit more and solve even a bigger problem. I think that people, professionals like yourself and myself and others that, particularly the audience that would select to watch this, right?
Yeah.
It's a different.
We're a different breed.
We're all
different.
Part of a club. We're all together here, right? All right. It's just us talking now.
Exactly.
When we take on the approach that we're not just looking for a technology to solve a technology problem, or like we were talking about party tricks, some of these technology party tricks that people will show and says it does this thing and it's magical and it solves a thing and it's there. That's very low value.
Yeah.
It's when you or I or anybody who's watching this goes back and says, you know what? Let me take that party trick that I saw online. I think I can solve a piece of a business problem with it, and it might not even be a big business problem, a small business problem.
Yeah.
Solve it, and then turn around and show business value to somebody who's a non-technical person who's not excited about the party trick, but says, I can see how that piece will solve a business problem for me and move the needle. Even if it moves it just a little bit, that might open the door to saying, you know what, that's kind of neat that you solved that problem, but over here I've been working on this other problem.
Yeah.
Maybe you can help me with that. I think from a career perspective, anyone who can move past the idea of, I'm just, again, I'm showing technical party tricks. They can move into saying, let me pull that. I saw Gus do that thing online, or I saw Charles Lamanna build this thing. But you know what? I've got something in my organization. Let me just try it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll learn something about it.
Yep.
But let me try to solve the problem. I think those are the people who are going to be continually in demand because there's a difference between somebody who's a technical, pure technical, versus somebody who's actually solving problems.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see what problems you solve with AI for the Titanic. The CRMUG Summit coming up in a few weeks.
Yep.
Hopefully that will be a model that is pretty completed because they're building Titanic #2. I'm sure you saw that, right? Sailing from China to Dubai or from Dubai to China or something. So hopefully you can finish this thing so I can go sell it. We split it 50-50.
What's funny is anytime
we just have to add a #2 and find a replace Titanic for
That's
Titanic
right,
2.
That's right. Anytime
That's it,
something comes
so.
up with Titanic in the news, I get a message from Ben Vollmer.
Of course.
He's always busting on me for something about Titanic.
Let's sell it. Let's do it.
But at the summit, I'm going to do a full session on the Titanic and show how the different pieces work together. And if you haven't seen it, or if somebody hasn't seen it,
even if they saw it in the past, it's always different.
Always something different.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, and I laugh about it, and I know that I get it. I use this thing all the time. But the thing that you can take away from it is, here are the problems that we have. You can suspend trying to map your organization to Contoso or whatever, and just say, okay, let's just relax and get back and have fun with this thing. And we can walk through the Titanic and find different ways in which we can solve real problems with the technologies. And honestly, it's been good for me because sometimes those technical party tricks, which I keep saying over and over, sometimes those things are cool to see, but when you try to implement them, then you understand it at a different level. You understand where the gaps are, you understand what the good fit is, and that's where I've kind of used this thing to help educate myself.
Yeah.
To understand what works. So I'm doing one on Titanic, and that's a fun one. It's goofy, but it's fun. The other one I'm going to do is on AI solutions, and there are a couple of solutions that are I have visibility into them right now. I don't have access to them yet, but I hope by the time, and I went ahead and submitted my session based on what I hope was available.
Exactly.
So it was a little bit, I'm kind of putting it out there saying, I hope this is available for me. So I think that by the time we get to UG in Orlando, that I'll have access to everything I want to show the AI components, how those, from a real world perspective, can implement an organization. And again, AI is cool, it's great, but if it doesn't solve a problem, whatever.
Yeah.
If it solves a problem that can help you turn around and go back to your business and say, here's something I can help move the needle on. And you don't have to
be a home run.
Yeah.
It could be a home
run. And you can
yeah.
walk in with a solution, not a problem.
Absolutely.
It's a huge career boost for yourself. So
Awesome.
Anyway, I hope it's going to be fun. It'll be fun no matter
Yes,
what.
absolutely. This is why I always have to stop and see the Oracle when I'm in New York. So, man, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Can you see me in the city? There is no spoon.
There are cookies, so I do
cookies.
get.
My wife made cookies for you.
Man, this is awesome. Full circle.
But yeah, I'm glad you came. You got to visit me in New York while I still live in New York.
Yeah.
Anyway, so looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next one.